I've got two things. I sang happy birthday with a whole bunch of my friends to someone at lunch, and we were to split up because it was inappropriate. Someone kicked my chair and I fell, and I got a detention while they didn't get anything. That second one fucking speaks to me. In second grade I had a bully take a chunk of concrete and bust my knee wide open with it. I went to the ER and he got off scot-free. Not quite school, but a school function. I almost got kicked out of prom for being drunk, simply because I didn't want to dance. I was sitting at the table watching everyone else's stuff, and 3 staff members dragged me outside to ask me how much I had to drink that day. Meanwhile, there's girls who obviously had been drinking on the dance floor not being bothered. My dad had a "you can't stay home sick from school unless you're extremely sick," mainly because he worked from home and didn't like being bothered. So unless I had a fever of over 103 and/or was throwing up, my ass went to school. And to be honest, until I got my driver's license I had nothing to do otherwise, so I had very little reason to skip. So one day my freshman year in high school, I'm sick, I can't eat because I'm queasy, but I haven't thrown up at all, and I didn't have a fever, so off to school I go. I get to third class and I realize that I'm going to toss my cookies. I'm in the middle of science class and we're supposed to be doing some quiet activity sheet, so I raise my hand to ask to use the bathroom. The teacher is a hard ass and says that I should have gone during break between class. I said to her, "No, really, I'm about to vomit." She infers that I'm lying and that I need to get back to work on my sheet. So I walked up to her, handed her the completed activity sheet, and threw up on her lap. She calls security and tells them I intentionally assaulted her with vomit. I was suspended for 2 days, and my parents had to threaten legal action against a school district to get the suspension reversed. Turns out I had the norovirus. Was sick and asked to go to the bathroom. Teacher bitch said no. I vomited in her trash can. She tried to get me expelled. I can still hear my dad laughing in the principal's office. We had a kid who was sort of a class clown. He was also a really gifted athlete. We had practice that morning before class that ran a little longer than usual. We didn't have a chance to hit the locker room on our way in. Our coach always made us drink a ton of water to stay hydrated. About 20 minutes into first period he raised his hand and politely asked to use the restroom. The teacher said no. He asked again, same answer. He stood up next to his desk and asked a third time. The answer didn't change. He proceeded to stand there and piss his white running shorts for a solid 30 seconds. The dude became a legend. He was suspended for a day, and the teacher was also heavily reprimanded. One of the funniest things I have ever witnessed. I got yelled at for blowing my nose for too long. I got kicked out of math class for hiccuping. Not because it was disturbing anyone, but because the teacher said I was faking it for attention. I used to get hiccups a lot when I was a teenager, and most of the people in my class didn't even notice when it happened anymore. It was uncomfortable and embarrassing, but didn't really distract anyone for more than 30 seconds. In primary school we weren't allowed to talk during lunch. Go fucking figure why, but people who did had to go stand in the corner until the others were finished. I had to go too. I got yelled at for not saying good morning back to another teacher. Got a week's worth of detention once because someone spread a rumor that another girl and I were having sex in the bathroom between classes. Teacher whose class I'd supposedly left backed me up that I hadn't left class while I was supposedly getting it on. As far as anyone knew, I was straight. I didn't really know the girl I'd allegedly hooked up with. What I actually got detention for was telling the principal too that I didn't think it was any of his fucking business when he started asking about my sexual history. One time in primary school, I went into school with a weird pain in my side. It felt like a muscle stitch, so I didn't think much of it, assuming it would get better after a few minutes or so. Flash forward about an hour, and we're all sat in assembly. I'm almost doubled over in pain cause it hurts to breathe, and some kid next to me keeps talking to me. As I try and tell him to stop, I get singled out by the teacher for disturbing the assembly, and so I have to stand up, almost in tears from the pain, and walk out of the assembly to sit outside while everyone watches. Flash forward about another 30 minutes and I'm lying on the floor of the headmistress's office, waiting for an ambulance to come and pick me up so I can be taken to hospital and later diagnosed with swine flu. We had to sculpt a clay bust, then glaze and fire it. I made mine a black man. I had to go explain to the principal why I made mine black and a letter went home. I'm white, no black kids went to the school. This was 5th grade, I have no idea why it was an issue, and neither did my family. I was in pre-K, and my teacher took our class to the bathroom. It's important to note that every door looked exactly the same, and I was 3 or 4. I was getting some water and when I looked up my entire class had just walked off without me. So I toddled down the hall and opened the door I thought was my class. Spoiler. It wasn't. The teacher of that class gave me back to my teacher and I got put in timeout. Yes, I got put in timeout because my teacher left me at the bathroom. My mate was meant to get into trouble over something I did. I told the teacher I did it, she extended his for some reason. I never got one for it. Was a mouthy little shit at school, but I also had some asshole teachers. One would often start his classes off with stories about his day-to-day life, normally pretty chauvinistic in nature. One fateful day he started with the words "So, on the way to work I passed a really ugly woman," to which I chipped in, "Was it your wife, sir?" The teacher flipped, screamed at me to leave his classroom, and threatened a world of pain if we crossed paths again during that week. I went to the library for an hour and kept my head down for a fortnight just to be sure. Back when I was in HS my school banned salt. So I literally had to smuggle salt to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Kids were also selling it. It was ridiculous. I never got in trouble, but others did. I went to boarding school. Plagiarism. I didn't use the correct MLA format 2 years before we learned about it and was chewed out as if I had claimed I wrote the Magna Carta. Fighting. A tiny kid tried to punch me and I held him at arm's length by the shoulder like a cartoon so he couldn't connect. In front of everybody. I've told this story before, but a friend of mine got yelled at for missing class to get scheduled chemo treatments. He died a few months later. I got a letter sent home and yelled at and humiliated in front of the entire class because I climbed on top of a pile of snow. Whoa there, slow your roll, Evil Knievel. I was in 4th grade and a big crack of lighting came down right outside the window and I screamed, like really screamed. I got sent to the principal because apparently that wasn't a mature reaction and got detention. When I was like 6 there was a broken gutter on the playground leaking rainwater and my friend and I thought we looked cool with damp brushed back hair and absolutely soaked our heads under it. We got yelled at cause we'll catch a cold, but they made us go stand at the wall still outside for the rest of lunch. Yakno, instead of sending us to dry our hair. In 2nd grade, I got yelled at by my teacher for helping a kid who didn't understand the lesson after he was done speaking. The kid had already asked for help and he ignored him, and I was already done so I decided to help him, then got punished and yelled at for doing so. Any time I got sent to the nurse for farting twice in math class. This was in 7th grade. In 8th grade, my best friend was dating this really shitty guy. At lunch one day he got mad at her over something stupid and backed her up against a wall. He raised his fist like he was going to punch her. I was angry and didn't know what to do to stop him, so I poured some of my soda down the back of his shirt. It maybe wasn't the smartest thing, but I did it before I even considered what I was doing or what might happen next. Predictably, he turned on me, and that's when a teacher finally showed up. I got sent to the office, lectures, and written up for the soda. I explained what happened, but since the teacher didn't see any of it, I was the only one who got in trouble. Whatever, I wasn't going to just stand there, and I had no idea how far away help might be. That second one fucking speaks to me. In 2nd